a ride is out of the question.
Down with this sort of thing. Careful now.
The nation holds its breath. Yes!
Hello and welcome to another episode of Friends in Low Places, the podcast where four Irish friends, now for over 35 years, have migrated their pub banter to the world of podcasting, and so far without any regrets, or maybe we'll see. Anyway, afternoon gents, all good?
Shawnee, how are you? Mike, how are you?
Thanks. Niall, you well?
Good, thanks. Looking forward to Tipperary and Cork in the Munster hurling this evening. So again, gets me all excited. Like not much else these days is the Munster hurling championship.
I'll have to tune into that.
Shout out TV for the evening.
Yeah,
it'll be the old wireless for me, lads.
Wireless.
Can I get it in Belgium? No, Shawnee.
No. Funnily enough, now Channel 1, Channel 2, Belgian channels don't focus on that. Or BBC might have it on, actually.
Can you get it, possibly, or the RTE player, no?
No, you can't use RTE player in this region.
Okay.
Yeah. But anyway, up tip, just to get that straight out there, yeah. Now, unfortunately, today we are without the man himself, Aaron Walsh, due to some family engagements. So, gents, we'll have to double our efforts on the funny one-liners to make up for Aaron.
Yeah.
We'll see who comes out on top for those. But in today's episode, we are going to, well, let me start. We're all pushing 50, right? And when you're getting older, sometimes you might find yourself saying, I wish I'd started going to the gym sooner, or if I'd only taken that opportunity in my 30s, who knows where I'd be, or if I hadn't let that Colleen slip through my fingers, who knows where I might be. So today we're going to kind of have a light-hearted look on some light regrets and maybe some more serious regrets. So we're going to kick off today's episode with a kind of little multiple choice quiz on regrets in general, and I will take that, and Niall, you will then have a look at do we have regrets, and do people believe in regrets, and then Mike could take a little bit more deeper look on as the Grim Reaper approaches your end of life, as you say, on the final 18 hole of the back nine. Do you kind of what are the common regrets, and what do people really regret when we're getting closer to that big day? But let's kick off with the quiz then. Yeah, all right, I'll call it a quiz, but it's more of a multiple choice.
Yeah. Can I just correct you on something there, Shawnee? You did not let that Colleen slip through your fingers, so there's no regrets there, or in your case, that mademoiselle.
Yes, I was speaking for other poor sods that did. We're not fortunate like
I just got my calendar to pop up there, Shawnee, because I wasn't quite sure. So officially I will be 50 next Friday.
That's true, yeah.
This will be the last podcast I expect that I will do when I'm 49. I didn't have a regret starting the podcast, but I think I do now, as it turns out.
Constant reminder.
And listeners, I could just say that the best happy birthday I ever got was from a message was from Niall when I turned 46, and he just sent me a message saying, "Welcome to your late 40s." So you've passed from your late 40s to your early 50s now, Niall. Yeah. Me and Aaron will be joining you soon after, and then Mike, you still have another year to suck it in.
That's it. Well, an early happy birthday to you, Niall.
And thanks very much.
So, guys, regrets mostly happen when your brain starts doing what? A, taking a nap. B, replaying your life like a director's cut. Counterfactual thinking, aka why did I say that? Or D, buffering like bad Wi-Fi.
Wesley D.
Go for D, yeah.
Replaying your life one, Shawnee. I think that was B, was it?
Yeah. No, actually, it's counterfactual thinking, aka why did I say that? I suppose after a few drinks, that would be my most common regret. Why did I say that? Okay, number 2, in the long run, what haunts people more? A, that embarrassing thing you said back in whenever, 2012 or 2010 or 2009. B, things you didn't do. C, that one haircut. Oh, yeah. D, buying pineapple pizza.
Yeah, I actually like pineapple and pizza.
Yeah.
I'm going to say things you didn't say. I think that's B again.
Yeah, things you didn't do, B, exactly.
B, yeah.
I'd agree with B, yeah.
I gotta say, I do have that one haircut story that happened to me.
Give us the answer before you give us the fucking story, Johnny. Will you?
So I was in college. You're trying to save every penny you get. I had some German exchange students, and there was one guy who was he had I had the shearers thing, and I was like saying, I need a haircut, and he was like, oh yeah, come, sure, I'll give you a haircut. I do it all the time now. And his own cut seemed pretty good, so went down to his place anyway, sit down, chair, first fucking haircut ever. I literally wore a cap for the 2 or 3 weeks. It was just fucking all over the shop. It was terrible.
My dad used to cut his own hair.
Yeah.
But there you go.
Fine job.
What was the answer? B.
Yeah. It's B. Things you didn't do.
Yeah.
Okay. Question 3. Is regret always bad? So A, yes, it ruins everything. B, no, sometimes it stops you from making the same dumb mistake twice.
Yeah. B for me.
B for me.
It is indeed B. Question 4. Which field basically studies why you made that questionable life choice? Is it A, astrology, B, vibes, C, behavioral economics, or D, guesswork? It's a tough one.
C.
Yeah.
C, behavioral economics is correct.
We're doing well, Mike.
What'd you say A was?
Astrology.
Astrology. Oh, yeah.
Well, maybe for some people, the answer might be
Plenty of people.
Yeah.
Which of these is not a real type of regret? Moral regret. I shouldn't have said that. Opportunity regret. I should have gone for it. Identity regret. Who am I even? Or D, I waved back at someone who wasn't waving at me. Regret.
I'll have to go D on
That
that.
has also happened to me.
On that one, yeah. D.
No, it's actually C, identity regret. So, which is not a real type of regret? Identity regret. I never had this.
Jeepers. These are tough.
Yeah, that was a tough one. Question 6. When does regret hit hardest? A, when it wasn't your fault. B, when you had zero control. C, when you definitely knew better. And D, when Mercury is in retrograde. So, when does regret hit the hardest?
C.
C, I'd say myself.
C?
I think
Yeah.
C.
For me.
Yeah, when you definitely know better. How many situations have you been in when you knew better, but you went ahead and did it anyway? Question 7. Too much regret is linked to what? Becoming a philosopher? B, depression? C, instant wisdom? Or D, time travel?
Depression.
Yes.
Mm.
Depression, exactly, unfortunately. Question 8. What do we call it when you convince yourself it all worked out anyway? Sounds very Irish.
Yeah, big grand.
That's pretty grand.
A, delusion. B, rationalization. C, personal branding. Or D, character development.
B. I think B now.
Give them to me again, Johnny.
So A is delusional, B is rationalization, C is personal branding, and D is character development.
B.
Yeah, rationalization, of course.
Hmm.
It all worked out anyway. Just rationalize it to yourself.
Yeah. The gamble was worth it.
The gamble was worth it, exactly. Question 9. Do different cultures handle regret differently? A, yes. B, no. C, only on the weekends. And D, depending on the type of snacks that you have available.
I'm going to say yes, A.
I'd say no.
Yeah, it's actually yes. Different cultures do handle regrets differently. And the French have a very good song by Edith Piaf.
Yeah, give us an old bar of it there, yeah.
Well, just as a matter of interest, Shawnee, I'm assuming from that you're saying that the French have a slightly different relationship to regret or regrets than, say, the Irish do, as a for instance. I'd be interested to know what that is or what's the difference.
I don't think they're. I think they move on maybe a little bit more or quicker than we would maybe.
Okay,
We would
interesting.
maybe ponder a little bit more on it, and it would take us a bit longer to get to sure, fuck it.
All right.
That's the way it is. I think they're a bit more. It's happened, gone, done.
Okay,
I
interesting.
think. Any my French friends may correct me on that if I'm wrong, but that's just my impression. The Belgians, on the other hand, they wallow in their 8%, 9% beer and muddle over it for a long time.
Ironically, I suspect there is a relationship between regret and alcohol in both cultures, quite frankly.
Yeah.
The more you drink, the more you regret, I suppose, yeah.
And then the final question 10. What do people usually regret most? A, not replying to that one email. B, life stuff, love, chances, big decisions. C, forgetting where they parked. And D, watching one more episode at 2 a.m. in the morning. So what do people usually regret most?
Give them to me again, Johnny.
A, not replying to that one email. B, life stuff. So love, chances, big decisions.
Yeah, life stuff.
Yeah.
C, forgetting where they parked. And D, watching one more episode at...
Yeah, although this morning I would agree with D.
Life stuff. You were up late last night, so Mike, you were?
Yes, it is. It's B, life stuff, love, chances, big decisions. That's usually the biggest regret. Anyway, that was that kind of little lighthearted quiz. And Niall,
Very good.
Yeah, we did okay in fairness to us, Mike.
Enjoyed that.
Yeah. There were
Yeah,
no...
we need to get you on the other side of one of these quizzes one of the days, Shawnee.
No, that's I'm
Yeah.
the quiz master. But there was no winners and losers of this quiz. So congratulations to you both. You both come on top there. So Niall, do we even have regrets in life?
Yeah, and I suppose that's open to each and every person. So in advance, I just quickly looked up what regret is, or the definition of regret. And seemingly, regret is a verb that means to feel sad or sorry about something that you did or did not do. Now, for me, it's also something I might have previously felt sad or sorry about, but that I have changed something or corrected something or improved something or learned from something, so I no longer feel sad or sorry. So I think when we talk about regret here, it doesn't necessarily need to be a regret in the present moment, which I suppose in a technical sense means that it's no longer a regret. So I suppose the first question, lads, is do we have regrets? Are regrets negative? Are they always negative? You know, what do we feel about that? So yourself, Mike, what do you think about regrets?
Do you know, before this week, anyone asked me had I any regrets? You know, I'd have things like small things like, I wish I had travelled when I was younger more, that sort of stuff. I was kind of looking back on it, I was kind of going, but if I had done that, if I regretted doing that, say, let's say, come out of college and I decided I'm going off backpacking for 2 years around, God knows where, would I have moved to Limerick? Would I have met my now wife? So would I have had other regrets? So maybe the thing that I regret isn't really a regret because I'd regret it if I hadn't done it.
Yeah.
Or if I had done it. But it's a bit deep, I know. I actually saw an interesting quote there that there's no regrets in life, just lessons. And okay, I suppose I'm somebody who subscribes to the what's meant for you won't pass you out as well. But I think, I regret stupid things like shouldn't have sold my motorbike 20 years ago. And maybe I'll change that in the coming years.
You can buy a new one, Mike, a better one.
Next year I'll be allowed to have a midlife crisis, will I?
Okay.
So
From we see you, we know when we see you with the motorbike, Mike, we know what's taking place. Yeah.
Like we all have things, I presume we all have things that we regret, like, maybe I shouldn't have said something I said to somebody in the heat of the moment over something. And if you hadn't had the opportunity to go back and apologize, you might feel that might hang on you for a while. I've kind of, as I said before this week, I would have said those key things, maybe I worked too hard, maybe I should have spent more time with the kids when they were smaller and now they're bigger. But they're all normal things I think that we do. If I didn't work hard, maybe you wouldn't have the lifestyle or be able to afford the lifestyle we have now. So, there's
pros and cons.
Yeah. But maybe there was a balance there somewhere that could have been achieved more, So for me, don't think I have that many regrets, really. No, nothing that's weighing me down. Biggest one at the moment is the motorbike. I think there in my late 30s, early 40s, I decided I was going to get out and get fairly fit, and I was up to a fairly good standard. Well, good standard for me of fitness. I probably have left that slip in the last 5 years or so. I just need to get back on track with that again. Because as we head into our the back nine, as we said earlier, of life, we're probably saying, what am I going to be like when I'm 65, 70? Can I still bend down and tie my shoelaces? Maybe the bit of fitness that we keep in place for the next couple of years will help us with that. So working on those things.
Shawnee, regrets, what does it mean to you, or what do you define regrets as, or do you have any? Regrets?
Yeah, I definitely do. And I think anybody who says they don't have any regrets is lying, basically. I think that there's always something in life you regret doing or not doing. And I would say I have, and I think the key thing is when you do have regrets is not let the regrets control you and take over you, and that you move on as quickly as possible and you park it. Yeah, I mean, I have and I was thinking about this. I was like, okay, I mean, they're not life-changing regrets. Like, I do regret not taking any parental leave with the kids when the kids were younger. It's something I wish I'd done, because I think it would have, a great relationship with my kids, but it would even be better. Career-wise, I regret that I didn't take more chances, and that I kind of just let myself fall into the career path, because I just literally fell into it. And it just seemed to work out. And I kind of, I think when we did the work podcasts, like I mentioned, I wanted to be a sound engineer. I kind of regret that I didn't push myself to go all out for it and figure out a way of doing it. But like, as Mike says, things don't have a way of kind of working out by the choices that you make. And then there's always, I think, like I like to I call them reoccurring regrets, where I might have maybe one or two many glasses of wine or beer, and then you wake up the next morning and, oh, fuck, I do regret saying that, if I can remember what I've said.
Okay.
But I mean, they're the kind of type of regrets that I have. But I do believe that everybody has some form of kind of regrets.
Yeah.
And yourself, Niall?
Yeah, so I would broadly agree with you. So interestingly enough, I would say that if I went back 15, 20 years ago, whatever, I suspect I would have been someone who had a lot of regret at that point in time. And again, in preparation for this kind of podcast, and to a certain extent, I have more reason than many to have regrets. But ironically, when I kind of looked at it, I don't think that I have that many regrets. For me, and again, I go back to the point, I think regrets can potentially be a very, very positive thing, provided that you learn from them or change something or do something like that. So to me, they can be so I think certainly in the last kind of 9 to 10 years, I think I've been able to do that. Now, with certain regrets, I would say it took me a long time to learn from the regret and put into practice whatever it is that I needed to put into practice. There are some exceptions to that rule. So for instance, I'm approaching 50. I'm a smoker, right? I'm constantly trying to give up cigarettes, but have I really, really tried? So for instance, that's very possibly a future regret.
Yeah.
And it could be a very significant regret, because it could have a very significant consequence. So again, I intend to have another go at it for 50. I may succeed, I may fail, but even if I succeed, because I've smoked till I'm 50, so to speak, there's still potential problems in kind of all of that. So yes, absolutely, I agree with you. I think if anyone says that they don't have regrets, they're probably lying, and I think it's perfectly okay to have regrets. And I think, as I say, if you can turn it into something positive, or you can action something, or you can do something as a result, I think regrets are one of the best ways that you can learn. A theme for this podcast, as far as I'm concerned, and listening to you guys, is that we're all pretty much along the lines in terms of accepting ourselves. And I think the processing or the dealing with regrets is part of that acceptance of oneself. So to Mike's point, you could have done something differently. You didn't. You are where you are now, and you just come to terms with that, so to speak.
And we've been talking about doing the podcast for such a long time. I think we'd have regretted it if we didn't do it.
And ironically, we've been talking, but this is a kind of a chance that we took.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because, like, as Aaron had said previously, you're putting yourself out there to be knocked and people to slag you off and call you boring old farts and all of that type of stuff. But, like, we went in and did it. So, this is something that we did. So perhaps if it was 10 or 15 years ago, again, I don't know, but, it possibly mightn't have been something that we would have done, or we would have talked about it and not done it. Whereas this time around, we talked about it and we did it,
Oddly, I was thinking about that today. I was out for a stroll earlier. And I was thinking, like, we spoke about it for a while, but we never actually did anything about it, we'll be talking about maybe future regrets a little later. But that was possible that, we didn't get this off the ground, and would we have regretted it in our 60s and 70s? Like, I suppose we'll always have, no matter what anyone thinks of it, we'll always have this for ourselves,
And it was said to you before the podcast started, and I know this sounds a bit kind of left of field or a bit strange, but using this episode as the example, I actually, because you're busy and you don't have time to think about these things and so on and so forth. So I would have assumed that I had more regrets than I had. I was just walking around assuming I had more regrets than I had without really contemplating it. But because we're having to do this episode, I was then having to contemplate, well, what are my actual regrets? So ironically, the process of doing that for the podcast, to my mind, has almost like a therapeutic type of, because actually, now that I'm approaching 50 and I kind of realize, well, actually, I don't have that many regrets. That was quite a nice feeling, so to speak. But I wouldn't have ended up with that nice feeling had I not to do the little bit of research for this particular episode. So it's just a very ironic thing, you know.
Like you said at the start, some good things come from kind of
100%, yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Okay, cool. Was that it, Niall, from your side?
Yeah.
Okay. Mike, if we're getting closer to that final day,
Yeah.
what are we looking at with most people's kind of common regrets towards the latter stages of their life?
Very conscious here that we're writing ourselves off quickly. But yeah, as we said earlier, I suppose we're all at different stages. Turning 50 becomes a sort of a checkpoint, I think, in life, maybe somewhat with ourselves. And it's kind of not just a birthday, it's kind of a reflection, or, you tend to reflect on life gone past. Like, you could say, in terms of things you regret, they started, from our 20s till our 50s. So that's over a 30-year period. If God's good to us all, we possibly have another 30 years left in us.
You said 40, Mike?
Another 30.
30 yeah, that's less. That's a reasonable bet.
Yeah, I wasn't. No, maybe one or two of us might push it. Who knows? Aaron, definitely, yeah. But it's a point in life where I suppose you tend to look back and at the life that you've built, number one, and are you proud of that? And as you look forward, the things that you did regret, are you going to make changes to those in the future? Like you said, Niall, giving up smoking, things like that. Is there other things, like, I said I didn't get to travel, but in my head, I have it that at some point when I retire from the day job, that maybe I'll have more time in my hands, and maybe that can be taken up at that point, albeit it might be slightly different with a Zimmer frame and a backpack than a hiking up a mountain at 25.
Jesus, Mike, if you retire and you're straight into a Zimmer frame.
Yeah.
It happens. Like, you'd be surprised the amount of people, guys, that they just retire and then, so it's amazing,
Yeah, well, that'll mean that I didn't work on my fitness between now and then, so possibly. But so, guys, so like, it's kind of a common enough thing, I think, for people to think about, is regrets in life. I've seen some interesting stuff online about, people reflecting back on the things that they wish they had done, or things that they didn't do enough of, and that's what forms our regrets, I suppose. But just I have kind of a list of different regrets, guys. I just want to see what your opinion is on them. So,
and I think these regrets, so when they talk to people as they're approaching the end of their life, Mike, and they talk to people about their regrets, these are typically the categories or the type of regrets that they voice or they talk about at that stage. So I suppose in that sense, if they're regrets at the end of your life, they very much qualify as real regrets, and possibly ones that we all kind of need to be aware of, maybe more as we move through life,
Yeah, I saw some excerpts there from I think it's a palliative care nurse in the UK that wrote a book on the regrets that some of the people that she had cared for in their final days, weeks, months, and she put it together. I know it's very morbid, so we'll try and keep it a little bit lighter, guys. So, did you spend enough time with the people you love? What would you think of that, Shawnee?
Well, yes and no. That's what you have to take into consideration as well, that I don't live in Ireland, so I have kind of not been able to spend time with family and particularly my parents as they've gotten older. I mean, and of course you can only visit as much as you can during the year, and I kind of regret that they haven't seen the grandkids as much as I would kind of have hoped they would have, although we did come home quite a bit when they were younger. Now it's a little bit different. They're 17 and 20, so they'll see each other less. So I do have a bit of regret when it comes to not seeing the family.
Just a bat on your side there, Shawnee. So from the kind of outside looking in, so to speak, and I mean, you have to qualify this by saying you live in a different country. based on that, I think, the amount of times you get home and the amount of time that you spend when you consider that is pretty impressive as far as I'm concerned. So I'm not sure necessarily. I appreciate you can always improve and you can always
Yeah.
do more and all of that type of stuff. But, maybe, you need to give yourself a little bit of slack there as well, because as I say, it's a different challenge when you live in a different country and you've work and you've a family and all of those types of stuff. So the amount of times that you get home proportionately, I would say is to my mind, pretty good.
It's not bad. It's not bad,
Yeah.
but it could be more, and it could be more with the kids as well. So that would be my answer to that.
Yeah, I'm pretty good on this, and again, because I qualify it in the context of, I suppose, the time that I have and the responsibilities that I have and the priorities and the things that I need to do and so on and so forth. Probably, and I think we both kind of say this. So it would be Aisling, if I'm being honest about it. So I'm good with the kids, but we're both very busy, and she's doing college now again. So I suppose we do find it a big challenge to make time for each other in that sense. So it tends to be put bottom of the list, so to speak. So that's probably the one person or the one relationship that perhaps I have a little bit of concern about.
Yeah.
Mike, yourself?
Look, I definitely conscious of myself. Both my parents are still with us, thank God, and will be for long more, hopefully. I'll only live about an hour and a half away from them. I don't see them as often as I should do. One thing that came out of COVID actually was, because we were all on lockdown and couldn't see each other for long periods of time, we started going on holidays with them at a different point. After COVID, we decided, we'll all go on a family holiday. So we've done a couple of family holidays together, which have been really good, It's a nice way to spend time with your parents. As the immediate family, wife and kids, they're in around the house all the time. So there's no issues there, I think, unless I'm told if we're doing a podcast on a Sunday afternoon, you're not in here with me cooking the dinner, like being in trouble later for that. But definitely, I would like to spend more time with my parents, especially as they're getting on in age. But it's difficult, as I said, and I said I've no excuse. I'm 1 hour and a half up the road from them.
Yeah, but life is a challenge for everyone, and then your kids and work and so on and so forth. So you can only do what you could do. You know what I mean, to a certain extent.
Yeah, but we're maintaining a bit of a break with them, at least going on holiday once a year with them if we can, a few days in Spain. Actually, we kind of kept that going since COVID, so we've enjoyed that, and it's been a good time. So it is, but even family, I suppose it extends past even immediate family, you know what I mean? Getting out to see your friends. Not enough.
Yeah, so that's definitely one that people, so what's another one, Mike, that people say when they're unfortunately on the way out?
Yeah, the usual stuff. Work too much. I think we're possibly all somewhat guilty of that.
How are you in relation to that, Shawnee?
Much better than what I was before, I would say. 20s, 30s, and early to mid. Like, I don't really see the kids that much during midweek. So yeah, I worked a lot. Again, I mean, if I didn't, I probably regret that I didn't work hard enough to be able to do the stuff that we can do now. But I regret it from not seeing the kids' perspective.
Yeah,
but
I get the sense from the work podcast, just having listened to you, that that's something you've gone a long ways towards putting right recently.
Yeah.
As in, you've made changes there, and those changes have been positive in that respect. That was my sense.
Yeah, exactly. Like 2 years ago, I think it was 2.5 years ago. Oh, could be 3 years now. I was quite sick. I had a really bad case of tonsillitis, but I was just flat out for 2 weeks. It's the first time in my life I was ever out of work for 2 weeks solid. And I don't know if I had an epiphany or something like that, but I was reading a quote by C.S. Lewis, and I was actually going to finish the podcast with it, but actually I'll tell it now. And it's, you can't go back and change the beginning, but you can start where you are and change the ending. And that really hit home with me. And then I say, okay, I think now it's time to, not live to work, but work to live, and just start doing things that I like doing more, like music and sport and activities and spending time with the kids and address that and set boundaries and all that. And I kind of said to myself then, you're going to wake up tomorrow and you're going to be 65, 70, and you're going to go, oh, fuck, I wish I'd done that. I know me. I that's what I would say to myself. I know. So then I kind of address that issue right there and then.
This is one where I have a lot of room for improvement, Mike, if I'm honest, but how do you fare out here?
I would have said, again, a bit like very similar to Sean, probably in my 30s, 40s, probably, was too dedicated to the role or to the job. I think COVID gave everybody a little bit of a wake up or a reset in certain cases. I mean, certainly for me, the working from home concept was never something that was available prior to that. I mean, so now, okay, in the role I'm in currently, I don't work from home as much as I did in the last 2 or 3 years, but I'm still very precious of my time. I try to get in and out of work within the times that I'm meant to be there or not there, and try not to bring it home with me, you know. So I think I've gotten better at that in recent years, for sure.
Constant battle for me, and it's probably an area where if I was to prioritize over the next kind of 12 to 24 months, I need to prioritize and change my relationship with work. It's a struggle for me to stop working. You know what I mean? And again, that has consequences. And again, there was a period of time when I needed to work as hard as I do now, but you know, there's less requirement on me to work that hard, so I can afford to work slightly less hard and less hours. But pulling back from work, it's a struggle, if I'm being honest about it.
But would I'd be right in saying kind of work is kind of passion for you?
No.
No, you read that wrong. Yeah.
I enjoy the achievement of it, and I enjoy working with the people that I do. I'm like, anything I do, I have to do it to the best. So there's nearly to settle for less than the best in certain instances. I struggle with that, even though that's a very sensible approach. You know what I mean? So like, it's just that kind of driver within me. Managing that sometimes is a bit of a struggle almost.
Yeah, we've noticed that with this podcast.
Yeah, but there you go.
Yeah,
It's just
fantastic work with it.
it's a podcast between friends. Yes, I want to conquer the fucking world with it. Do you know what I mean? That's the nature of the beast, you know?
Yeah. Okay, guys, we'll move on here. How about a time when you didn't say what you really felt, Sean?
I don't know really. I don't think so. I think there's been situations in work where I've maybe held back.
Yeah, I think if I'm understanding this correctly, Sean, it's for people when they're you know, the people particularly closest, nearest, they didn't tell them what they really meant to them, you know, while they were alive. They didn't tell them that they loved them, they appreciated them, or whatever the case may be, you know?
Yeah, no, there's one or two people I probably regret that I haven't been more open with. I would say, won't name names. I think I could potentially regret that when I get to the later stages in life. That's something I need to work on. As open and kind of talkative as I am, I sometimes I struggle a little bit to say what I really mean to people close to me. But I think that could be one of my regrets.
As you know, with me, it's almost my fucking default setting. So sometimes I'd have been better off if I didn't just have to say what, right? Yeah. There's one notable exception though, and so I had never told my father I loved him, right? That was the hardest thing in the world for me to do. And even as his death was approaching, I didn't think that I'd be able to do that. And it was just the once or the twice or the 3 times or whatever. And it seems like a really silly thing to not be able to do. But I'm delighted I was able to do that, you know, before he died. Obviously, I regret that I wasn't able to do it more during the duration of his life. But still, it's better to have said it than have not said it. So ironically, that's one. But I would say generally for me, I can't help fucking telling people how I feel, so that's my default setting, you know.
Sorry, listeners, I'm laughing because we've heard Niall say how he feels many times.
Yeah, and sometimes when it would be preferable to not do that.
And I'm fairly certain I've heard your.
Mike, what about you?
I'm fairly certain I've heard your mother at some stage saying, "Niall, you can't say that."
Well, my mother's fairly fucking good at it now herself, to be quite honest with you.
Exactly. Yeah. I'd be fairly similar to Sean. Yeah, I'd probably feel times I should have said more, and then there's other times I kind of come away from things that I said, "Geez, maybe I shouldn't have fucking said that." You know, so it's a bit of a mixed bag really for me. But I'd say I probably lean more on the should have said what you really felt or articulated what you really meant, kind of go back and clarified it, But anyhow, we'll move on. Lost touch with good friends. Do you regret any?
Not really, and any of the friends I lost touch with, in a sense, I don't regret it. So I think I'm pretty good on that one. One exception, I got into a relationship with a girl at one time. We were really good friends. Probably we should have stayed friends and not got into a relationship. That was probably a mistake. But as a result of getting into a relationship and then that relationship breaking up, we could no longer remain friends. So I think, had I a little bit more savvy and experience and cop on and knew a bit more, I would have never allowed that relationship to happen, and then we possibly would have remained really good friends. So that's a kind of a regret, so to speak, in that area, but not really.
What about so, Sean?
I'm pretty good at keeping in touch with people who I generally have created a meaningful relationship with. And I'm pretty much staying in contact with them on a consistent basis, no matter where they are in the world. Of course, the social media and Facebook and WhatsApp makes all that easy. There's a couple of people I would say I could have made a better effort at keeping in contact. And before I would have maybe reflected more on it and maybe kind of regretted it more. But the older I get, the less regretful I am about not having kept that relationship going, Then I should have. I don't want to say I don't care anymore, but I don't let it get to me. I just it is what it is. I move on. That's the way it is.
Yeah.
And interesting.
Mike, what about you?
Look, I think I spoke about before on the podcast about, just a couple of friends from college that just drifted away a little bit, still keep the odd bit of contact on Facebook and things like that, but there's one or two guys just can't find them at all. They're just like, they don't exist anymore, which is strange, but I kind of regret not on that. The people that you've spent maybe 2 years on and off with in college and stuff that just like to have kept that going. It is what it is. Actually, funny we're talking about caring. So the next one is, do you care too much about what other people think of you or thought of you? I think we've already nearly touched that in some cases where we find at this age that we kind of are less concerned about that. Would you regret, do you think, guys, you look back, would you regret on what other people have thought of you?
Yeah, kind of related, not directly perhaps, but I mentioned this before. So I didn't trust my instinct or my gut, and had I trusted my instinct and my gut sooner, I would have been successful in lots of areas of my life sooner. So in a sense, I listened to other people's advice for me. Not that it wasn't bad intentioned, it certainly wasn't, but it was just the wrong advice for me. So the kind of believing in myself piece, it took me a good while. And it was a little bit more, this is not to give myself a free pass or whatever, but it was a little bit more difficult for me because where I was going was different to the group or what was popular or whatever. So it's only really in the last kind of 10 years that I suppose I've been able to do that. And as a result then have been able to do that, I suppose, success is coming to me, so to speak. And it's not necessarily because I'm brilliant or anything like that. It's more to do with the fact that I am that hard worker, and when I put my mind to something and so on and so forth, generally I can kind of turn it around, so to speak.
Shall
Funnily, a bit similar to Niall, but funnily enough, I find myself these days more giving myself a pat on the back for making the choice that I've taken, the choice that I've taken, rather than looking at what I regret not having doing, which I find a bit of melancholy or nostalgic or whatever, and then like I'm so happy I chose. If we just had the school days episode, choosing St. Dailby's over the Abbey was like the best decision I've ever made in my life, and that was going against the grain, because all my brothers went to the other secondary school, and that was the first time I backed myself and trust my gut instinct. That was really, if I was really to pin down one time in my life where Sean back then, I would have went to the Abbey normally, definitely, but I just said to myself, let's not do what all your brothers have done. Let's do something different. And I believe it or not, like that really changed or created a trajectory to where I am today. So I think more about those points than actually kind of regrets and how people think about me and whatever. Like I don't really focus on that, and I don't think it's easier. Again, it's the older you get, it's kind of easier to not dwell on those things. But as long as I feel good in that I've made the effort with that that person, and then I feel good about myself and what I've done, then I don't really care.
Yeah, I'd be like that myself, as long as my conscience is clear that I've put in the time, if they didn't reciprocate, or if, that's on them.
Exactly.
Okay, very good. And was there ever a time when you felt that you didn't enjoy something while it was happening? You weren't present.
Live in the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ironically, I have two gears. Either I'm so in the moment, it's nearly almost uncomfortable, or I'm not in the moment at all. There's a bit of a medium there for me. So I'm very guilty of living in the moment for good. And then sometimes, because like sometimes when I'm in a moment and it's not particularly enjoyable for me, again, my direct thing is to say it or state it, which again isn't necessarily always the best. So I think I'm pretty good in that respect, but it's just the kind of managing of it. You can nearly live too much in the moment at times as well, so to speak.
Sean?
I suppose it's have I started something and then I kind of regret it, I've gotten myself into it. Is that's kind of what we're going for?
Yeah, but I suppose it's you're at something. So in other words, you're spending time with, I don't know, the kids, or you're walking the dog, or whatever it is. You know what I mean? And are you in that moment at that time, enjoying that as it's taking place, rather than being somewhere else, work or something else. So I suppose we all have this little voice in our head necessarily all the time, and I suppose we can be guilty of spending a lot of time in our heads, even as something has kind of taken place. So if you listen to the Buddhists or meditation or all of that type of stuff, the key thing is to live in the present moment and not live in the past or the future, for that matter.
I've tried to practice mindfulness, just to be I do sometimes kick myself. Almost every day I walk the dog in the forest, and I like walking on my own, just me and the dog. Love doing that. It's like I do the whole 2 or 3 kilometers of the forest, and I haven't looked or listened to the forest or looked at a tree at all. My brain has been going, this tune I need to do, or this for the podcast. Don't really think too much about work, which is a good thing, but it's usually other activities and other stuff I want to do. It also is a good exercise for me in terms of creativeness and thinking about things. But I do often get to the end of it and I go, oh, man, you're going to regret this later on in life, that you've walked through this forest 1,000 times, but you've never actually taken the time to appreciate the forest and sit down and just listen to the sounds and stuff like that. I think I will have that regret. I need to be better at that type of stuff.
Yeah, but I would say it's just making an effort to get to be a bit more in the present moment as you're doing it. It's not necessarily to get there, in all in one go. So it's kind of moving the right direction, rather than, because sometimes you can beat the shit out of yourself, which isn't helpful either,
Exactly.
It's funny you said it, Sean. I was in the forest this morning. Locally here, I live near Courage, a big enough forest, and there's lots of walks around it. And I've ran it, I've walked it, I have lots of miles put up on the paths there. And I saw something today in the forest, and I was going, how long is that for care? I've never seen that before. And I must have passed it 40, 50 times. So where was I in my head that, the last number of times I passed this way? Probably not paying attention to this, probably thinking about something else. It's a bit like that, often when you're driving, sometimes you end up in Tipperary and you're kind of going, geez, I don't even remember passing through Balcha. Where was I? Was I tuned out? Was I stuck in my head in the middle of something?
Did I knock anybody over?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So just quickly then, I'll just finish up here. We're nearly there now, guys. Thanks. How about looking after your health? I know we spoke earlier about it.
Yeah.
I think we all have our own goals.
I do a lot of training and smoke 20 fags with it, so there you go.
We're all.
Yeah.
I'm pretty happy. I have to say, like I was saying a while ago, 2 years ago, I kind of said, okay, make a conscious decision. I changed a lot my diet. I started going to the gym between 3 and 5 times a week. Tried to do physical activity every day, meditation and stuff like that. I just went for it full blast, and
well done.
I haven't been sick in 2 years. Really, I haven't. I lost a lot of weight, and I just feel much better. I was telling my colleague of mine last Tuesday that I'm in better shape now than I ever was in my 30s or my 40s, or my early 40s at least.
So instead of drinking 10 pints of Guinness the next time you're back, it'll be 3 pints of Guinness and 4 pints of water.
I'm not an angel, and I'm not perfectly healthy. There's some things I have kept, and that is the copious amounts of beer and wine at the weekend. It's still a challenge for me, which I'm tackling at the moment, but it's not easy.
Any others, Mike?
Yeah. How about appreciating what you have? Is there ever a time when you didn't appreciate what you
Better
had?
at it, getting better at it, and trying to continually get better. But I don't think it was necessarily something I was good at to begin with.
What about living the life you thought that others thought you should live?
Yeah, again, I would say I was very guilty of that for up until I was, I don't know, late 30s or something like that. But in the last number of years, again, I think I've improved very substantially in that respect.
Very good.
I kind of wish I'd listened to myself more 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah. But the good thing to a certain extent, well, at least I hope, proof's in the pudding. But some of those things that it took me, I'm way more conscious of that now with my kids in terms of what I say and how I say it. So that in essence, I don't add to that happening with them inadvertently, let us say. So in other words, I don't put my expectations of who they should be or what they should do or how they should turn out, etc., etc. So I'm quite careful around that. I'm not saying I get it right all the time, but I'm quite careful around that because of, I suppose, my own experience and how long, in essence, it took me to kind of get there, you know?
Hey guys, so look, just to wrap up on this segment. So I think from all of that, maybe what we're saying is, maybe rather than looking back in disappointment, we're sort of looking forward with intent.
Yeah, and I think Sean dropped the quote, which you probably need to repeat. I suppose
actually,
the point is you can change even where you do have still a little, you can change it, and in changing it, that's how you really, I suppose, manage or handle or turn the regret into something that's no longer a regret. You know?
Yeah, exactly. I'll say it again, and that ties in with the final question for this podcast. So again, the quote from C.S. Lewis was, "You can't go back and change the beginning, but you can start where you are and change the ending." And then, do you only realize these things too late? And can you actually catch yourself in midlife and change it? And I think you can. At least I feel I am doing it.
Yeah, the key is when you make the change, or when you try to make the effort, or when you attempt to change it. So the moment you do that, the change starts to happen,
Exactly.
Regardless of how successful or not that you are.
Okay, guys.
This time next year, Rodney.
This time next year we'll be millionaires, yeah. But to quote Edith Piaf, "Non, je ne regrette rien."
Okay,
And with that, I think you can take a guess what that translates to. But thanks a lot, and we look forward to having the next podcast, and I'm sure Mr. Walsh will be back with us. So enjoy the game tonight between Tip.
Come on, Tip.
Yes.
Come on, Tip.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Thanks, guys. We'll catch you soon. Be good.
Thank you.
Bye.
Suppose a ride is out of the question.
Down with this sort of thing. Careful now.